Hello and welcome to Dalum. I would like to also say welcome to you in other parts of the country. We have also in southern part of Denmark and in northern part and in western part of Denmark sitting out there. And today we have three presentations. We have Rikke and Stine together talking about biosecurity, and after that my colleague Christian will talk about the situation about PRS and influenza here in Denmark right now. Some very interesting presentations and some very nice pictures from Stine and Rikke. I have seen them. So if you have any questions out there, you can either present them to the leader on your site out there, or you can write on the chat from the link, and I will see on my phone. And we will have the questions from up here so everybody can hear them. But first of all, I want to say welcome to Stine and Rikke, and enjoy.
Thank you. My name is Stine and this is Rikke, and we're going to talk about different ways of controlling virus and bacteria in the farms. And we called it "If we have learned anything from the coronavirus," because that's a virus and a very good example of what can we do to control situations with pathogens. I'm the one called Stine, and I'm a veterinarian at Porcus and have been there for a few years. And Rikke?
I'm Rikke. I've been a swine practitioner in a big practice partner for many years, and the last 10 years I've been working at a pharmaceutical company where we produce and sell vaccines to pigs, and I've been working a lot with viruses, especially Circo and influenza and PRS. Yes, and I would like to make a little disclaimer here to begin with, and that's regarding copyright of text and pictures. Because if we think about Corona, there's one thing that Corona has shown us. It's the necessary part of working together. Because isn't it super impressive how it was possible for us to, in 2 years, produce a Corona vaccine and get pretty much the entire world vaccinated? That's a tremendous, fantastic performance of us together. And in Denmark right now, in order to keep producing at the top numbers we do, and also now that we are beginning to work with the PRS reduction plan, we need to work together. So that's why I will say thank you to all the participants, the companies, and the people that we will be referring to in pictures and text in this presentation. So thank you.
Just to remind you about the corona restrictions, it was all about protect yourself and others. It was also something about the air. We have to open our windows. We have to send all the kids in the schools outside and have their educations. We also talked about some kind of people bubble. So we should stay together with a certain amount of persons and not see anyone else. I hope you remember. Actually, we could just call it farm restrictions, and then it would be protect your stable and your pigs. Because a lot of this is what we actually do every day, or are supposed to do in stables, to protect our farm and also our pigs against different kind of pathogens, virus and bacteria. Just to summarize, we have this part called washing hands, changing clothes, changing boots, also part of the corona restrictions. We also have a focus on washing and disinfect, drying out to minimize the risk of pathogens. Then we have a sick pen and a box hospital, and in Danish corona restrictions, that would be also isolate the old and the chronically ill and keep in distance. We have a lot about group management and sectioning, and we also have that in our stables. We have the bubble thinking, where we are trying to do all in, all out, wherever we can. We also try to avoid all unnecessary movement and peaks. And last but not least, we also think about the ventilation, because we know viruses is very small and very easy to travel around in the air.
Okay, and to summarize, why is it we are talking about biosecurity or infection protection? We can't speak biosecurity without speaking about African swine fever, because if we get infected in Denmark, it's going to be a disaster for the entire swine production. And this is why we use this opportunity to remind you about the washing certificates. This map is the Danish washing certificate standards of the different infection zones. The green zone being the zone we are a little bit worried about. The red zone is be really protective about pigs or trucks coming from the red zone, and the black zone is where we know we have African swine fever. So always remember, every time we have contact to trucks and lorries, we need to be sure that the ones from other countries or in contact with other countries have correct washing certificates. And of course, one thing is African swine fever. There's a lot of other infections we can have into the country or into the farm. And what Stine and I would like is for you to think about all the thinking about biosecurity is pretty much the same. If we want to protect our farm and our pigs from infection outside from other countries or other farms, or if we are inside the farm where we want to protect one room from another, the thinking is pretty much the same, and this is what we would like you to focus on today. In order to repeat a little bit about what is it we're speaking about. In this picture, there's a red blood cell in the left. The red blood cell, you know, that runs in the bloodstream and is the reason our blood is red. It carries oxygen to the body. Next to the red blood cell is an E. coli bacteria. And then there's a list of different viruses. You can see influenza virus, AIDS, HIV virus, coronavirus, and very small PRRS, PRRS virus. And it's important to remember that there's a difference between viruses and bacteria. Viruses are very small, and as Stine just said, they are more easy to cough out, you know, into the environment, and they will travel much further because they are so small. Heavy bacteria will fall down. And also there's an important difference in the fact that bacteria are cells, they are living, they can be killed. Viruses are not really living, and that's part of the reason why they can't be treated with antibiotics. So this is why we need to do different control regimes in order to control viruses. And when we talk about biosecurity, let's start from outside the farm going inside the farm. If you ask veterinarians and infection experts, how is it we get infection into a farm? We know that infection can travel by air from outside, but the most important way to get infection inside a farm is by 4 legs from live animals or sperm or contact to live animals on trucks, 4 wheels, 4 legs or 4 wheels. That is the very much most important routes we get infection into a farm. And I'm standing on a ramp in the left picture, and it's really important that you remember ramps must always be clean before you move pigs and disinfected. And one of the things we really need to focus on is the fact that we have inside clothes and boots and we have outside clothes and boots. So I want the person who washes the ramp on the outside to be in dirty outside boots and dirty outside clothes, And remember also the hose, the power hose he's washing the ramp with, please don't take it inside the farm afterwards. We should really clean it before we take it inside. That's a really critical control point. And then there's the trucks. In the right-hand corner, there's the green and yellow truck. It's a slaughter pig truck or slaughter sow truck maybe. Remember, when you take sows into a slaughter truck and put them outside for the lorryman to pick up, to go to slaughter, is it being washed? Because he's probably moving from the dirty trucks into the sow wagon. Is it washed before it comes back to the farm again? We would like you very much to take this opportunity to speak together with the veterinarian and your other consultants about these things. Where is it we have critical points where we need to be more careful about not getting infection in the farm? And handling of dead animals is also a very important place where there's a high risk of infection, because we need to think about the truck that picks up dead pigs as maximum infected always, because he's been everywhere. And this is why we want you to always wear outside boots and outside clothes in order to handle dead animals. And the guy who's picking up dead sows must be in outside clothes and outside boots. Please don't go in farm boots outside. That's totally maximum forbidden. And also the red bin with the dead pigs, it's important to remember, of course it looks horrible from people outside a farm, but also foxes and birds can get inside the bin and drag dead animals and infection around if we don't close it. And then there's the picture of the food. It's really important to remember that African swine fever virus can survive for more than 1.5 years in sausages and meat products like that. It's a very, very resistant virus. And also the boots we use when people go hunting in other countries, and also the trophies, you know, they can have virus from African swine fever inside for more than a year. So we really need to be very, very careful. And then we go inside the farm. I know you are hired people, all of you are working for a farmer, correct? There's no owners in here, right? And then it's easy to yell at him, because a lot of times when I come as a visiting vet, I start, where's the owner? I want to tell him I couldn't find his farm. And now I'm smiling and joking about it, but a lot of times it's actually difficult to be sure, is this number 18? Because where's the house number? A lot of farmers really need to be better at making clear which house number is his. And also, if I come into a SPF farm with a high herd health in 2022, this is a recent picture. He surely hasn't updated his farm registration. So is he clean as he claims? What health status does he have? I would like very much also that there's a list on the door always with the telephone numbers for you, so I can get in contact with somebody inside the farm. And then I put on a picture of a key, because actually we're supposed to have all farm doors locked in Denmark at all times, and farmers don't do this. So maybe we should have a key box with numbers on or something like that instead, so we don't suddenly have somebody who's driving wrong with the pigs for another farm inside the farm, for example. This is a really critical control point and a high risk. So now we move further inside the farm. You know this about the front room forum, where we change clothes from outside clothes to inside pig clothes. And in a lot of farms, like the one here on the left, we have a good system where we come in the dirty clothes and dirty shoes from outside, put them here in our socks. We move inside the farm and put on the clean farm shoes and clean farm clothes. That is okay, but in a lot of farms, I would like to draw your attention to the other end of the system, because a lot of time we have cleaner rooms or slaughter pigs where we have different systems that are not as good looking as this. It's okay, you know, we're standing in a food room or feeding room with maybe we have a mat we change our clothes on, and maybe we have a pelle, you know what I mean when I say pelle, and that's okay. But the problem is just that a lot of times in those places, it's a little bit more unclear where is this clean zone, where is dirty zone, and then there's somebody coming with the goods in bags from outside and moving a wagon maybe across where I was walking with my clean socks and so on. So it's not this room I'm really afraid about, because here we wash our hands and everything is as it should be. It's in the other end of the system where we actually should do the same, but we have a different location. So that's where we should speak about how we control infection.
Okay, now we are off to talk about the biosecurity inside the farm. And I'm gonna speak about what we call MacRabble. And MacRabble is something invented to control PRS virus in stable. And you can see it's something about management changes to reduce exposure to bacteria and to eliminate losses from PRS. MacRabble can be used to eliminate the amount of bacteria and viruses overall, but it's made because of the PRS. As I said, it's internal biosecurity, and it have kind of 10 golden rules, which we should be talking about in a minute. If you have this tight MacRabble and actually do exactly what it says here, it will probably be when you are doing eradication of a disease on a farm. But many farms have some kind of MacRabble at their farm, but they have some places where they do it a little different. But here we need to be careful, because suddenly we do it very differently, and then we have a very bad biosecurity inside the farm. The first three of the rules would be number 1, when cross-fostering, move only the surplus and minimize moving up of piglets. Number 2, no cross-fostering later than 48 hours. And number 3, the movement of pigs between litters in the farrowing house must be minimized. Those are all about the same issue, that we're trying to keep the pigs with their mom. We are moving a little in the very start, and then we kind of close the litters. And why we want to, and we need to be very careful about all the piglets must get their colostrum, because this is the start of their immune system to get them started and handling exposure to different antigens. This is in theory, 2 different ways of handling pigs at the farm. To the left, you can see that mixing of pigs increases risk of infection. If we are newborn and we have some kind of infection at 1 litter, and we take some of the piglets and we sort them out, and maybe for sizes or one are not growing enough, and we put them out in all the other litters. After 7 days, we still have around 12% of sick pigs, but they are now all the way in the farrow stable. When we wean them and test them 1 week after, we will have about 90% of them being exposed to this antigen. And when we look at the slaughter pigs, we will have almost 100%, 95%, being with this antigen. If we are having a different strategy in the farrow stable and in the climber and or weaning stable and slaughter stable, we will have the litters locked, so we will still have the 12% of sick piglets, but the newborn will stay with their mom, and after 7 days you will still have the 12%. When you wean them and look at the weaning piglets, you will only have those from the same litter would be around 19%, and when we look at the slaughter pigs, only 20% would be with the antigen. So 2 different strategies to minimize that the antigen are going through the stable to all the animals. Number 4 of my grapple says that change needles need between litters. This is very important, but we also need to look at the needle overall. So this is how you should not do it. In the top to the left, you can see that the needles are just pointing down in a very dirty box with a lot of dust and a lot of antigens that could make the pig sick. In the middle, someone tried to keep the needle clean, but this is not the way to do it. If you look to the right, you have the needle pointing up, whereas you have nothing to touch it. But we also know that viruses and other dirt and pathogens are in the air. So if those are left like this for a longer time, there will be viruses and stuff sticking to this needle, and then you take the needle and put into the next mini pigs, directly putting viruses or other stuff inside the pig. Someone tried to have a nice way of working so no one get harmed. So left in the corner at the bottom, you can see that they are pointed down into flamingo.
Yeah, flamingo.
Flamingo protection, sorry, which is not a good solution either. What you should have is those nice clean boxes where you can see what you have. You have no dust and hopefully no viruses or other pathogens either. You have the cover to the needle on top of it, and you only put it off while you're actually using the syringes. When we talk about needle, we also need to think about when you have a new needle never used, you will have a nice sharp edge and you will have no rough sides of the needle. When it has been used, you can see it starting off getting a little rough and a little stitchy, and in the end you also have kind of holes inside, small microscopic holes. But inside those cracks and holes, you can also keep a lot of bacteria, a lot of viruses, and a lot of dust or other things. And this you will put directly into the next animal. So make sure that you actually change your needles, 1 needle per team when we're talking about small piglets, and also when we're talking about sows or other pigs. Make sure you regularly are changing needles, for example, 1 per 10 sows. Why are we so hysteric about those things going around when you talk about needles and holes in the body? This is why. It is made of PRS, but it is also on other kind of bacteria and viruses. If you have virus infection going through the mouth, you will have a lot of numbers before the animal gets sick. If it's going through the nose, you will have a lower amount of viruses before the animals get sick. But if you go through the skin, like when you castrate or when you use the needle, or if it have holes in its front legs or whatever, then you only need 10 small virus particles to make the animal sick. So it's very, very important that we think about this out there. We also need to think about other different ways of infecting the small piglets when we're handling. If you're using gloves, make sure you change them for every litter. If you're not using gloves, make sure you're using alcohol or some kind of disinfectant between litters, so you do minimize the risk of taking viruses from 1 litter to another. Also think about if you're using some kind of Espercox or other medicine you give by drench. This should be nice and clean, like a needle, because it might take more virus particles to get the animal sick when you put it inside the mouth, but you can also be harmed inside the mouth. Many have small scratches and stuff inside the mouth, and then we have the direct exit through blood. Through blood, we need a minimum of antigen to get sick. So it would be like having this thing for the babies.
Yeah. Pacifier, I think.
Pacifier, you can call it. We don't want to put one like this inside the baby's mouth. We always clean it or have it in the water and then put it into the mouth. So think about it like this. Okay, we also need everything else about medicine to be nice and clean, so we minimize the risk of having bacteria and viruses stick to stuff we're using. So keep a nice fridge, and remember what we're doing out there is we are making food. So to look at it as some kind of kitchen hygiene would be the correct way of looking on your medicine.
Okay, so now we come to point number 5 in McRebel routines. And I will remind you about what Stina has been telling you about. It's something we do, it's routines we do if we have a PRS infection. And if we have a PRS infection, we stop moving pigs entirely. When we have a normal working farm, we can do like Stina has told you, maybe move pigs until after 48 hours of birth, and then we lock the teams. I would like very much in a flat world that we could not move pigs after 48 hours. But that's not how it is in Danish farms. We know in a lot of farms only 30%, very much less than half of the pigs are lying with their mother. And that means that we are moving pigs around a lot, and when we move pigs around, there's a risk of moving infection around. And Stine and I, we could speak the rest of 2 days about how to move pigs and so on. It's something that's very specific for every specific farm, so it's too big a thing to talk about today for every individual farm you are at. But I would like very much for you to take time to speak with your veterinarian a long time about how is it we move pigs. What is it we do when we have a pig that's becoming small? Should we kill him? Yes. If we want to stop infection in a farm, then we need to kill him. Kill him or take him away to Klima stable. That's actually the only way. And one of the reasons why we'd like him to be moved is because he's shedding a lot of infection. He's full of infection, and I'll show you one of the reasons why it's bad to move him. This is what happens when we move the sow away from the pigs. You know that when the pigs are born, there's first milk colostrum that the sow gives to the pigs. This is really important. But actually there's something called lactogenous antibodies in the milk all the time that the pigs are getting milk. And what happens when we wean the sows, when we take sows away from pigs, then we see this antibody protection in milk goes away, and then virus and bacteria start growing very fast. In few hours, virus in the pigs are becoming really, really big numbers. And this is why we don't want to find pigs that are out without a mother in the farrowing section. If we look closer to what happens, let's see here. This is 2 boxes in a farrowing section. This is Monday morning, and they moved the sows out on Sunday evening. And I can tell you from the graph I just showed you that virus excretions, shedding of virus from these pigs are beginning to be very, very big. And that's partly because they are not getting milk anymore, but it's also being worse because these pigs are cold. Can you see the pigs here are lying with the behind the tail out? Pigs that are happy are lying with the face out. So they are cold, and we can see that some of the pigs don't have a warm house. And remember, they are almost 40 degrees hot, and outside is maybe only 20 degrees. And we took the mother away, so the ones that can't be inside here, they could before have been lying up against the mother to get some heat. Now they just have to be cold. And one thing is sure, if you are cold as a pig, then risk of becoming sick and getting diarrhea is becoming much worse. So we can't have pigs without sow. Also, they haven't learned to eat yet, and there's a very low number of eating places. And where should they drink? Maybe they're not drinking enough water yet. They're used to drinking from the mother. So weaned pigs need to be in weaning section where we take special care. This is not allowed if you have any virus problems in a farm. And also we've been doing projects in Denmark to show what happens if we move pigs that are small. And we would very much tell you that it's not a problem to wean a small pig, because we've shown that if we have small pigs that we wean together with the rest of the sow group, the group that they were born together with, then 7 weeks later, they actually weigh, they've grown and weigh the same as the big pigs. So they follow the big pigs, even if they are small from beginning. So recommendations from the official farm, hvad hedder det? Hvad hedder sikkes på engelsk? Official recommendation in Denmark is that we make approximately 15% of special pens in Klima, and that's every 6th or 7th box should be with special care. And what is special care? It's definitely extra heat, because there's no point in putting 2 small pigs into a separate pen if they freeze in there. They must have extra heat, maybe some straw. And then we can show that it's much smarter to have a pig in a weaning room instead of a farrowing section, because it's much more expensive to let the pig stay in the farrowing section. Actually, the price is double. So if you move pigs, small pigs, together with the big pigs to Klima, it pays double off. So let's take them out of the farrowing section. And also one more reason. You could be afraid that small pigs are more sensitive to infection and diarrhea after weaning, but this is actually not so. It's been shown that small pigs have less diarrhea than bigger pigs. Small pigs at 5.8 kilo had much less diarrhea than the medium and the big pigs. And why is this? This is because a lot of time the small pigs, they didn't get enough milk. There was not space at the pigs or the sows' tits, so they were used to eating already much more than their litter mates. So actually they are much more ready to be weaned. And that's why we say wean them even if they're small, together with the rest of the same age group, because then we take the risk of infection from them out of the farrowing section. And sometimes you have a lot of pigs that are weaned in the middle of the week. And most farmers don't like to wean several times every week. But then we would recommend you to make something that's easy, a box or a small trailer like this, where when we go to the Klima, we could take these ammesows with us, that is weaned outside of the same days as the big weaning group.
Okay, now we're off to number 7, 8, and 9 of the memorable. Number 7 is strict batch production, what we call all in, all out. We have number 8, no contact between age groups, and number 9, no contact between piglets. Weaned up to 6 months of age and sows. So this could also be said in a different way and very easy, very short, like the corona. Just keep a good distance. This is basically what we're talking about. And to illustrate it, we have this figure. In the top we have the sows and the small piglets laying with their moms. We have a stable of weaners, piglets, and then we have the slaughter pigs. All of those should have no contact at all. So it would not be very smart to kind of have piglets going from one stable and to slaughterhouse through the farrow stable or something like that, because then you will also have the risk of contact anyway in air. We should remember, like the corona restrictions told us, that we have this protection because of the distance. We have the protection because we isolate sick and healthy pigs. And then we also need to think about the ventilation, because ventilation can also have a lot of, or the air can also have a lot of bacteria inside. So we also need to keep that apart. We also need to remember in stables for young animals that we cannot mix and match as we want, because then we also drag diseases from one pen to another and maybe from one stable to another. Number 10 of McGrabble would be always to introduce incoming gilts via quarantine, also home produced gilts. And if we have our perfect quarantine, we would have it in a separate building from the sow herd. We would also have a separate entrance for people, and the people would be someone else, like the one taking care of the rest of the pig. We would, or we could check very last every day. We would also have a separate ventilation and manure system. And of course we would wash and disinfect as we should between batches. This is also kind of like the corona. We need to keep the bubble where we keep the gilts in their own bubble. We also was told during the corona period that we should stay home if we are sick. This is what we are kind of doing with the pulse. We make sure they are staying at their home in the quarantine until we are sure they're not sick with something that can infect the herd. Then we should keep the distance between the pigs, and of course we also have the possibility to vaccinate gilts when they're in the quarantine with no risk for the sows. About the vaccination, we do the vaccination to stabilize the herd, the farm. We can also vaccinate to lower infection pressure, to control disease, or to remove diseases, usually doing an eradication. Examples could be the parvo vaccination, PRS, influenza, PCV, coli, Lawsonia or rotaviruses. We should also remember to vaccinate all the peoples in the stable, and we should stay home if we are sick. And this is of course because people can actually infect the pigs with influenza. Remember in general the hygiene, and we can here let the corona restriction guide us also. We should of course remember when we're doing this thing about our piglets, where we make a lot of holes in them, but also we should have a nice box where we have plastic slates instead of some kind of sawdust or something, because bacteria and viruses can stay at the sawdust, but it's very hard for them to stay on the plastic. It'll go away in between. We should remember all the things that we use can also be used to have contact between groups. So those wagon we drive around with food, we should think about their wheels and where they're going. Are they clean, and are they going outside the stable or inside? We should think about phones and other stuff. Also, when you go around to make shit go down the the manure area, you use tools like the one in the bottom right. You have might be using footwear that can be washed, but you also need to actually wash it. You can see in the top it's not being washed at all. And in general, use footwear that can be washed and are being washed instead of those in the bottom left. E. coli love high humidity, we can see in the far left. In the middle we can see E. coli love a high temperature, around temperature for the body and up. And the pH for E. coli are very nice, around 5. If we lower the pH or make it very high, the E. coli are not prone to survive. So overall, protect the stable and the pigs, and do it like we did the corona thing. Make sure you wash your hand, have a high personal hygiene, and you wash before going in and out and between batches, stuff like that, litters. Be aware of the cleaning, both sections, but also stuff, footwear, tools you're using. Make sure you are isolating sick animals, and in general, make sure that the physical contact between batches, litters, ages of pigs are minimized as much as you can. Thank you for your attention, and now for questions.
Okay, thank you to Rikke and Stine for a nice presentation. I think it's nice with the comparison with the corona. I almost forgot the restrictions. How about you? It's nice it's gone. I have just one question. There was no questions on the chat so far, but maybe there will be later on. Just one question. These lactogenous antibodies, we are used to be told that there are no antibodies in the milk after the raw milk. I would ask if it's actual antibodies or is it more like chemical substances in the milk?
Chemical substances. Yes, repeat that, please.
Okay. Rikke tells me it's like chemical substances in the milk. It's not like antibodies as we know it in the raw milk. Okay. So, if you get any questions later on, please just write on the chat. We can find, or in Dalum here you can tell me. And then I will say welcome to Christian. He will tell us something about the PRS and influenza situation here in Denmark right now. So, thank you, Stine and Rikke.
Yes. So, you look fresh. It's been a long day, but now it will be really interesting. So, I would like to tell you a little bit about PRS and influenza, and we have to go up in the helicopter. Go up in the helicopter means that we have to see something from the open and down. This is not our new helicopter because it's too expensive. We have the small one here. But yeah, you know, it's crisis. And now at the beginning we have a map I will show you about PRS infections in Denmark. And please, I have to have some help in the corner. Ta-ta! So this is Denmark, as you know, and we have a lot of green spots, white spots and red spots. And if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that every single spot is a farm in Denmark. And the green dots are farms without PRS. The red ones have PRS, and the white ones we don't know. So we have to test all of them this year, actually before Christmas. But it's all farmers and consultants, vets in Denmark can download that maps. So I think you can go to your boss and he can show you how it works because he also have access to that map. It's quite smart because we have to make those PRS eradication programs in areas. So if you try to use the lasso, as we call it, we can make an area. Now we can. Ta-da! So let's say that we would like to eradicate this area from PRS. And we can touch this one and we can, you know, it's the technique. Yes. Okay, maybe it doesn't matter. Oh my God. You can see that we have more than 5,000 farms in Denmark. And hopefully this map should work. This is Als in the south part of Jutland. Now we'll try again. Yes. So I will see in this area we have 22 farms. And we can see exactly the number of the farm, the owner, the address, the status, how many animals, sows, piglets, finishers, and so on. So it's a very useful tool for us as a vets to help farmers to eradicate PRRS. So you can go back, yes, and zoom out. So please, if you have half an hour, 1 hour, one day, it's quite funny to go have a look. And as I mentioned before, all the white spots are testing now, so hopefully we'll have a full map within some few months with only reds and green dots. Okay, we close this map down. Yes, and then you click on the other link. Now you have to see how PRRS are spread from one pig to another pig. It's a very clean stable, as you can see. So we have a very bad pig is coughing. Yes, and then let's go directly into the next one. And then you can see all the blue ones, it's PRRS virus. It goes into something called macrophage. And it replicates inside, means that they are making kids. Now they are transported into the bloodstream. This is the blood vessel. And it goes to the genital tract, into the fetus, and makes subclinic infections. And it's when we have those virus going inside the blood, that's what we have a viremic phase, meaning all the virus go into the blood and circulating. Yes, we go out of this. This is not for now, this is for later. Perfect. So, now you saw that we have all those farms which are green and red and white. But if farms have PRRS, they must have a kind of PRRS declaration, and we have to make that on farms every single month, so we are sure that we don't have any clinical signs on the farms, because if they have clinical signs, we cannot slaughter pigs on the slaughtery, and so this is very important. So we have to test all the farms, and it goes like this. Before 1st of January, all the unknown farms have to be tested 2 times, and with a little bit more than 1 month in between, so we are sure that we know what we have. And what we are testing here is the antibodies in the bloodstream, so it's not because of virus, it's because we have had a virus attack and now we have all the antibodies in the blood, and this is what we are testing here. So in Denmark we have to test 130,000 samples from the summer until Christmas. So if you are seeing vets with no big black eyes and their blood samples under the arms, that's the reason why. So this is the work going out now. This is a map of what we are doing. The point is that we have to be sure that we in 2025 don't have so many farms with PRRS, because it would cost a hell lot of money. Imagine that you have PRRS antibody positive farms. Of course, they can do the eradication totally or partly eradication using vaccine and McRebel. And if they are still positive, we have to make this clinical declaration. Of course, if you are antibody negative, meaning that you don't have any PRRS at all, you can just deliver it to slaughterhouse without further problems. In 2025, maybe it's us, we don't know, but someone will test the farms with the PCR technology, so we can see if the slaughter pigs are carrying virus, and if they are, they have to pay a lot on the slaughtery. They have a reduced income on 20 øre per kilo the first 4 months, and then it will be 40 and 80 and so on, up to 300 øre, 3 crowns a kilo, if they don't do anything. So that's the motivator to do something about PRRS now, so we don't have those problems in 2025. Of course, the solution is eradication of this virus disease. So this is what we're doing from now, and it's a huge, huge project. Yes. And of course, from now and to the end of this world, we will test all farms one time a year, blood samples. This is a little bit about price differentiation. So just to make sure, you can have PRRS positive farms now, also next year and the year after without any problems. But in 2025, you will have that problem. So if you are testing positive in the PCR, you are paid less for your meat. So this is the status from last year. I think it's from the springtime, maybe. In 2022, we have 25 PRRS negative declared farms, and in 2025 it has to be 75%. And for sows, we start up with 58% negative farms, and it should be 85%. So this is the target. And of course, it's not 100% because it's a volunteer project. But of course, if you want to sell your pigs to the slaughtery, you have to do something. If you want to sell pigs in Denmark, which has to be slaughtered in Denmark, you have to do something. But if you maybe sell pigs to Germany, Poland, Hungarian, whatever, then you don't have to eradicate. But please think about it, because your neighbor might have a problem then. So this is the milestones for the next 3 years. So next year, hopefully we will have 45%, 2024, 60%, and then we ended up with 75% of the fattening pigs. Yeah, that's the target. We will see how fast it goes. So you can see the full number of farms in Denmark is 5,324. 53% of them are unknown, but they are tested now. 42% is blue, a little bit red, and yellow. And so we have a lot of testing. Here you can see the first column to the left is sows, including finishers. And we have 176 with unknown status, and so on. The number 2 column is the slaughter pigs. We have a lot of unknown farms there, and and then we have only piglets, and then sows with or without piglets in the end. Of course, we have a financial crisis in the farm industry in Denmark and the rest of the world now. So we have reduced the number of farms since this one with 300 farms. That's a lot. So of course it helps us a little bit, but it's a sad situation. So this is a map helping us eradication in areas. The white areas are areas without so many pigs and without any PRRS virus. The pink one is something in between, and the red ones are those with a high density of pigs and virus. So you can see we have something on Bornholm, a little bit on Fyn, the south part of Jutland, in the middle of Jutland, on Mors Salling in the northwest, and up in Vendsyssel in the north part. Has some very complicated areas with a lot of pigs, and they are placed very close to each other, and a lot of them have PRRS. So it will give us huge problem. But this is how we divided Denmark into areas. So in the past we have American PRRS virus, and we have this European or Danish PRRS virus, and then we have positive and negative. We now start to use another way of division. It's like we have stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. And stage 1 and 2 is the outbreak phase, where we have a new infections. Pigs are very sick and sad, and fever and secondary infections. Stage 2 is where we have some few antibodies and the virus load are reduced a little bit, but it's still a problem on the farms. Stage 3 is where we don't have any virus at all, but a lot of antibodies in the sows. It could be after blitz vaccination with sows, and this McGregor rules, 10 golden rules in farrowing stable. And then stage 4 is without any antibodies and any virus. They are tested free for good. So all farms in Denmark must go into this stage 3, because this is where we have no risk and no virus. So if you are working on a farm with PRRS, you should work on this. So go to stage number 3, because we vaccinate the gills inside the farm, and we have a lot of antibodies in the sow population, so the sows cannot get PRRS from the neighbor or from outside, and we wean negative pigs. And when all farms in an area are in stage number 3, we do a coordination, so everybody stop vaccinating the gills at the same time, so they are testing free for PRRS at the same time. That's a lot about coordination. But if nobody knows anything, goes to stage number 3. That's the most important thing. So, how do we know what stage you are in? We are doing something called processing fluid, and it's a little bit disgusting. So we take the tails and the testicles from castration and put it down to a bag or a bucket, and then we freeze it. And when we take it up from the fridge, the water will run out, and we are testing the water. Yeah, I can see what you're thinking. We are testing the water, and if we find any virus in that water, it's positive. Of course, if it's without any virus, it's negative. We do a lot of this testing, because then we can see when the farrowing stable are free of virus. They're not born with virus anymore. So that's a click. Then we do some family oral fluid. It means that we have a rope in the farrowing stable, and all the piglets, they are biting in the rope, and we measure all the salivation, and also tested this for PCR, and we can see if there's negative or positive for PRRS virus. In the climate stable and the slaughter pigs, we do the same blood testing and rope tests, so we know exactly what kind of infection we have in different places. Yes, I think that's it for now for PRRS. Any questions for PRRS? Oh, we don't take any questions now. No, sorry. You have to hold your questions. Now we turn into influenza. So please, now you can see how influenza is going. Now it's for humans, but it could be also for swines. What? Yeah. I will do it fast. Please.
Swine flu is a respiratory disease caused by a relatively new strain of influenza virus known as H1N1. It is a contagious viral infection transmitted by inhalation or ingestion of infected droplets, such as from people sneezing or coughing. The H1N1 virus has multiple parts. Inside the virus is genetic material that carries a blueprint for building copies of the virus. The virus has an envelope with spikes of proteins referred to as H and N proteins, which give rise to the naming convention for the virus. Swine flu typically infects cells in the respiratory system first, such as the nose, throat, or lungs. The H spike on the virus attaches to receptors on the surface of the healthy cell membrane.
So you can see the
This
virus
allows
go
the virus
inside
to
the healthy
penetrate the
cells.
cell. As it does so, the body forms a
And now
membrane
goes
around the virus
into the
molecule.
fresh cells,
The virus then travels
find the
towards
nucleus
cell's command
inside
center,
the cells,
nucleus, and
and
opens
all the
up to
genetic
release
materials
its
go
genetic
inside the
content
nucleus of
inside
the
cell's
cells.
cytoplasm.
It's very smart. And
The
inside
viral
the
genetic
cells,
content enters the nucleus, where
we-
it uses
they
the
do a
cell's own
copy
machinery
of,
to print copies of itself.
of the full genetic
Some of these
materials.
copies travel
So it
out of
make
the nucleus,
millions of
back
copies.
into the cytoplasm.
Then they go outside
There they
and,
attach to
and find
ribosomes.
what we call a
Ribosomes are
ribosome.
like factories that
And the
produce
ribosome
parts
is a
based on
factory.
blueprint.
So inside the cells,
The
they are
viral
producing
blueprint
those
causes
proteins.
ribosomes to manufacture
We should
proteins
stay on
like
the surface of the
antigen and
virus.
spike that are needed to create new
So
virus
it
molecules.
could easily come in, and now it
Now,
produces
all components
billions
needed
of
to
receptors.
create a new virus
So it's
assemble
very
below the
easy
cell membrane,
for the virus to get
using
out of the
cell's
cells
own
again.
surface membrane to create the viral
So now this is
form into a
infected
new
cells,
virus.
and you can see all
In
the
this
influenza
way, a
virus
single
goes out
cell
now.
can produce millions of viruses.
And one
The
single
viral
cell
load on the cell
could produce
also causes
millions
the cell to burst.
of virus.
These newly generated viruses then go on to
And we
infect
have
other healthy
millions
cells,
of
causing
cells.
the flu.
So it's billions of virus. So that's how it is, and this is why it's so important to have to do everything very clean. Of course, it's a stable, and something is possible, and some things are not. But imagine how many virus could be on a needle, of a hand, everything. So that's just for you. So this is, I have to do a little bit fast from now, I understand. This is the influenza season for humans. And you can see that it starts some few weeks before Christmas, and then it goes up, and it falls down in the springtime. So this is for humans. For pigs, it's something completely different. It's a flat line. It goes from month to month, more or less like this. Of course, in the wintertime, it attacks the pigs a little bit more than in the summer times, but it's not the same seasonally as we have here. The period where we can test the pigs are not so easy to catch because they are coughing at least 1 month later. The temperature is high, and there's a lot of virus in the bloodstream, so it's a very short diagnostic window. But this is what we're doing, and this is how they are looking. So the first picture to the left is showing a very sick pig, but it's a little bit too late. It looks like it's sick, and it is also sick, but it's too late because first we have the virus, and afterwards we have the bacterial infection. So if we are testing the first pig, we don't catch any virus. We catch bacteria, and we don't want to know anything about bacteria at that thing here. So we have to find piglets which are looking like the other two, with the red arrows, a little bit sneezy, and then with something like water coming out of the nose, then it's more influenza-like. So this is what we like to test. So about prevention, yeah, you know, they are good for prevention in China. Of course, do all the things you know from Corona and what Stine and Rikke told you before. Think about McRevel. It's not a bugger club. It's something very important and tell you something about how you should work in the farrowing stable. To control influenza, you can also use vaccines. I think this is the most useful tool. We have two kinds of vaccine in Denmark. We have the classic swine flu vaccine, respiratory pork flu 3, and then we have this pandemic vaccine, which are covering the pandemic influenza. And of course, it's not for free. If you have to vaccinate, let's say one time every quarter, it's a little bit more than four times a year, maybe 5. If you also have to vaccinate the gills, it will cost you 90 crowns a sow, and the year after will cost you 76 crowns a sow. So of course it's expensive, and if you're thinking, is it worth? It's very different. In some farms it's really worth. In some farms it's not. So it's a combination of clinical science, results on the farms, and testing. If you have clinical science and we are testing virus, we have to vaccinate, and it will be worth. So the 0 point, or the return of investment, is around 0.36 weaned a sow. So a little bit about what kind of influenza types we find in Denmark. In 2022, we have this. We tested 115 farms, and we find that 58% is positive, 26 is a little bit positive, and only 16% are negative. Of course, this is not a screening from all farms. It's farms with problems or problems in the past, but it's a lot. And when you see the circle to the right, you can see that this H1N1 is 7%, H1N2 is 36%, and they are covered by the regular vaccine, respiratory pork flu 3. And then we have this pandemic influenza, it's 43%, and it's covered by the pandemic vaccine. It grows a lot. So the pandemic situation is fast growing, and you can see that they are more or less the same size now. And this is very new. 10 years ago, it was completely different. So when you create new types, you bring virus from humans, and you bring virus from pigs, and they go into pigs, and they have kids together, and they create new kinds of virus. And they do that every single day all around the world. So that's the reason why we have so many different kinds of influenza virus in the world, and also coronavirus and everything else. That's how it is. So please vaccinate your gills into the farm, I think with both type of vaccines, because you don't know what comes. So please use both kinds of vaccines. Please test, and think about this pandemic also. And the final thing, please get vaccinated. So if the farmers come and tell you have to be vaccinated, say yes, because you can bring virus to the pigs, and the pigs can bring virus to you. And we are vaccinated, all of us, one time a year, because we don't want to share anything. Is it okay, Paul? Yes? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Christian for this interesting presentation on PRRS and influenza. Any questions here from the room here? And Stine, you check my computer if anything on the chat from out there. I think Christian mentioned that the pigs can be vessels, mixing vessels for these influenza types. And I think it's important to say that also we as human beings can be mixing vessels for these different types. So also on this point, we are quite similar to the pigs. So, yeah, but if no questions here, I would say thank you to our presentations today. And thank you for joining the meeting today. And hopefully you will join some kind of a Christmas beer after this. This is, the last meeting for this year. And we will say thank you for this year. And hopefully we'll see you again next year. Okay, thank you.